There's a quiet moment, perhaps just once in a lifetime, when the veil begins to lift. A moment when something inside you whispers, "This can't be all there is." It's not loud, not forceful, but it unsettles you in the best possible way. It cuts through the monotony of routine, through the repetition of real life that you've been taught to accept as absolute. And in that split second, your old story, the one where you are small, where life happens to you, begins to unravel. We have been raised to believe in a version of the world that places power outside ourselves. We wait for promotions, for love, for health, for happiness, as if life were a slot machine and we just had to be lucky. But what if that entire operating system is flawed? What if the truth isn't that you're here to earn your life, but to create it? That's where this journey begins. Not in science labs or spiritual retreats, but right here, in the mind that is reading these words. Because that mind, your mind, has been trained to believe in limitations that do not exist. It has been told that thoughts are just thoughts, feelings are just moods, and that life is a sequence of external events that sometimes work out and sometimes don't. But none of that is real. The truth is more unsettling and more beautiful. Every thought you think carries energy. Every belief you carry shapes your perception. And every time you accept the illusion that you're powerless, you reinforce a reality that keeps you small. But once you become aware of that mechanism, something sacred happens. You get to choose again. Have you ever wondered why the same patterns seem to loop in your life? Why relationships follow similar trajectories? Why struggle always seems to find its way back in, even after progress? The answer is not in what you're doing, it's in what you're being, in what you've allowed yourself to believe you deserve. And let's pause here gently. Where in your life are you still chasing something you don't believe you deserve? Because that right there, that's the lock. That's the cage. And when you dare to admit it, even quietly, even tearfully, you place your hand on the key. You see, thought is not just a function of the brain. It's a signal, a frequency, a seed planted in the quantum soil of the universe that responds not to effort, not to logic, but to resonance. This is not wishful thinking or motivational fluff. It's the architecture of reality, hidden in plain sight. And it's the reason people who expect love tend to find it. The reason those who believe in their worth seem to rise again and again. But if you've been hurt, if you've been silenced or made small, this kind of truth can feel like a threat. You might resist it, even as you long for it. Because accepting that you are the creator means confronting the fact that some of what's unfolded in your life may have aligned with unconscious beliefs. Not punishment, not failure, just patterns that were never yours to begin with. And so the work begins, not in changing the world, but in changing the way you see the world. You must become aware of the lens before you can see clearly. You must challenge the voices that told you what's possible, what's realistic, what you're allowed to dream of. And you must awaken to this. There is no gatekeeper but you. There is nothing more dangerous to the status quo than a person who realizes their thoughts shape their reality. That is why this truth has been buried beneath centuries of dogma, oppression, and distraction. But it's surfacing now. That's why you're here. That's why these words found you. The illusion of powerlessness is the final veil. Once you pierce it, everything begins to bend. And so I ask again, what have you accepted as permanent? That was only ever a passing thought. In the space beyond the veil, there exists a field. A boundless, intelligent, vibrating sea of potential. Scientists have tried to name it. Philosophers have tried to define it. Mystics have lived by it. But no label truly captures its nature. Some call it the unified field. Others call it the quantum realm. But what matters is not the terminology. What matters is the truth. You are already communicating with it, every second, whether you know it or not. You've probably heard that everything is energy. That's not just poetic language, it's fundamental physics. At the smallest, most basic level, everything is vibration. Your thoughts, your emotions, your body, the chair you're sitting on, the space around it, it's all the same fabric, just vibrating at different speeds. And the quantum field is the canvas that connects it all. Now here's where it gets interesting. The field doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you are. This is why affirmations don't work unless they are backed by belief. This is why you can work tirelessly and still not receive what you long for. Because wanting something with all your mind while believing the opposite in your heart sends a scrambled frequency. The field mirrors the signal, not the words. Think of the quantum field like a cosmic echo chamber. It doesn't judge or deny. It doesn't have preferences. It simply reflects. Just like a mirror doesn't care what face you bring to it, the quantum responds to your inner energy, not your outer effort. That's why two people with the same resume can experience wildly different careers. That's why two equally talented individuals can walk two entirely different paths, because their inner broadcast determines their outer reception. There is an elegance in this design because it means nothing is withheld from you. Not by fate, not by luck, not by some mysterious external force. If it's not showing up in your life, it's not because you're unworthy, it's because you're not vibrationally aligned. And alignment isn't about faking positivity or forcing belief. It's about becoming internally coherent, being in agreement with yourself. And yet, most of us are not. Most of us live in a state of energetic conflict. We say we want abundance, but we carry deep fears of scarcity. We long for love, but still carry the weight of being unlovable. We chase freedom, but are addicted to control. These internal contradictions are not your fault. They were inherited, absorbed, and practiced for years. But they are yours to release. Take a breath here and ask yourself quietly, what beliefs about yourself are you still rehearsing that you never consciously chose? Because beliefs are not hardwired, they're memorized. And what is memorized can be unlearned. Let me share something simple that changed everything for me. Imagine your thoughts as seeds. Each one carries the potential to create, but not every seed grows into a tree. Only the ones you water, through repetition, through emotion, through attention. The field is the fertile ground. Your focus is the sunlight. Your feelings are the rain. This is not fantasy. It's physics in metaphor. Real-life manifestations aren't always flashy. Sometimes they start as a shift in how others treat you. Sometimes it's a sudden invitation, a random message, a coincidence that feels too perfect. That's the quantum field responding to your new frequency. Subtle at first, then undeniable. The more consistent your signal, the more quickly and clearly the field arranges itself to match you. You might be wondering, if I'm always creating, why haven't I created the life I dream of yet? And the answer is both simple and profound, because you haven't fully believed you could. Or perhaps because your subconscious belief in struggle was stronger than your conscious desire for ease. But once you start choosing your thoughts like you choose your clothes in the morning, with awareness, with care, with alignment, everything begins to shift. Not because you've manipulated life, but because you've stopped resisting your role as the creator. It is not about control. It is about coherence. And you become coherent when your thoughts, emotions, and actions point in the same direction. When you become the version of yourself who already has what you seek. Not someday, now. There's a mirror you've been staring into your whole life, though you may not have noticed. It doesn't hang on a wall, and it doesn't reflect your face. It reflects your state of being. This mirror is the world around you. Your relationships, your finances, your health, your patterns. They're not random, they're responses. They reflect the frequency you hold, not the fate you were handed. Let's slow this down, because here lies the deepest secret of manifestation. Reality is not objective, it is interpretive. And you are the interpreter. You are the broadcaster. And life is simply echoing your signal. You are not a fixed personality, you are a dynamic frequency. And that frequency is determined by your thoughts. Yes, but more so by your emotions. You can think 1,000 times a day that you're worthy of love, but if deep down you feel rejection, abandonment, or shame, that's the vibration you're actually transmitting. It's as if the universe is constantly asking you, who are you being now? Not who were you yesterday. Not who will you be when you get what you want. Right now. Because this field, this invisible, energetic web of possibility, responds only to now, and now again. Think of it like music. If your life is playing in the key of lack, no matter how hard you try to sing the song of abundance, the harmony won't land. Your energy must match the song you wish to sing. And that match, that resonance, is found not by force, but by truth. You must become what you seek. Let me offer a story. A woman I once knew had struggled for years to make ends meet. She was smart, driven, and deeply committed to growth, but every time she'd start a new venture, the same cycle would repeat. Excitement, hope, grind, then burnout, disappointment, and loss. Again and again. She had the strategy, she had the skills, but what she didn't realize was that she was still vibrating with a belief planted in childhood, that money only came through suffering, and even then, it would eventually be taken away. When she finally saw that belief, not with judgment but with compassion, everything shifted. She stopped trying to earn her worth. She started asking different questions. What would I do if I already trusted life? What would it feel like to create from joy, not fear? And slowly, things began to unfold. Clients showed up without effort. A past debt was unexpectedly forgiven. An old friend offered her a collaboration that reignited her creativity. She didn't manifest these things through visualization alone. She did it by aligning her energy to a new truth. I no longer have to suffer to deserve ease. Now let me ask you, what is the emotional frequency you live in most days? Is it anxiety, anticipation, fear, control, striving? Or is it trust, surrender, joy, peace, curiosity? Because these are not just feelings, they're magnetic codes. They either pull life in or push it away. And this is why most people unknowingly manifest struggle, because they're emotionally rehearsing the energy of fear more than the energy of freedom. Not because they're broken, but because they've been trained to survive, not to thrive. But you are not here to merely survive. You are here to remember that you are not separate from this field of creation. You are it. You are not waving your wand at the universe. The wand is your own being. If you want to change the mirror, don't fight the reflection. Change the frequency. Not once, not occasionally, consistently. It's not about perfection. It's about returning again and again to the inner world where true creation begins. So pause for a moment. Tune in. Ask yourself, what feeling would I live in if I trusted completely? Let that question hang in the air. Let it echo in your chest. That is your portal. Because the mirror is waiting. It's always waiting. Not to test you, but to meet you as you are. Exactly as you believe yourself to be. The truth is, most of us are living recycled lives. Not because we lack imagination, but because we're living out the same emotional signatures day after day. The same morning worry, the same midday stress, the same nighttime regret. This repetition becomes so familiar, so automatic, that it feels like who we are. But it's not. It's just who we've practiced being. Our brains are like record players, replaying grooves that were etched by experience, reinforced by repetition, and eventually sealed by belief. Neuroscience tells us that neurons that fire together wire together. Meaning, the more you think and feel a certain way, the more likely you are to keep thinking and feeling that way. Not because it's true, but because it's habitual. Now add emotion to the mix, especially strong emotions like shame, fear, or betrayal, and those grooves deepen. The brain and body form a kind of contract. This is our familiar state. This is who we are. And so you wake up each day, not with a clean slate, but with a download of yesterday's self. The emotions you haven't resolved become the filters through which you interpret your life. But here's the miracle. Just as the old self was built, it can be unbuilt. And a new self, a more truthful, aligned self, can be created. You do not need to find yourself. You need to decide who you are, and then practice being that version over and over until the nervous system believes it too. This is not pretending. It's not faking confidence or layering positive thoughts on top of old wounds. It's becoming. It's a deep cellular process. You begin by observing your internal state like a scientist and a poet at once. You notice without shame when the old patterns rise. The voice that says, "Who do you think you are?" The impulse to shrink, the compulsion to please, the reflex of unworthiness. And instead of reacting, you pause, you breathe, you choose. That moment, that pause, is your power. Real change doesn't come from efforting. It comes from shifting identity. If you want to manifest a new reality, you must become someone who feels safe receiving it. And to feel safe, you must feel worthy. To feel worthy, you must see yourself clearly, without the fog of the past. Let's take an example. Imagine a man who has always attracted chaos. Jobs fall through, relationships combust, health flares up out of nowhere. He's exhausted, but it all feels normal. One day he decides to journal, not about goals, but about his patterns. He begins to see a thread, a belief that if he isn't fixing something, he has no value. And so, unconsciously, he creates chaos to validate his worth through struggle. That awareness alone shifts everything. He doesn't need to fix the pattern. He needs to feel safe in peace. He needs to feel loved even when nothing is wrong. So he begins small, taking quiet walks without guilt, letting things be easy, allowing joy without justification. His nervous system resists at first. It thinks ease is danger. But over time, it softens, and his reality begins to reflect that shift. Fewer fires to put out, more genuine connection. Opportunities that feel aligned, not forced. Ask yourself now, what part of you still thinks you need to struggle in order to earn love, success, or rest? What part of you panics in silence, fearing that stillness means you failed? That's the old self speaking, the one trained to survive through doing, fixing, proving. But you're not here to prove. You're here to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. And when you remember, you return. You return to your true vibration, to your natural state of coherence, to the you that never needed to fight for permission to exist. That version of you, the real one, already aligns with everything you desire. And once you live from that place, manifestation is no longer a chase. It becomes a mirror of your inner alignment. You are not stuck. You are simply rehearsing an identity that's no longer yours. And the moment you stop performing the old self, the new reality begins. There comes a moment when the striving ends, not because the goals have all been achieved, but because you no longer chase them from emptiness. You begin to live not as someone hoping to become, but as someone who already is. This is the birth of the effortless creator, the person who no longer begs life to respond, but allows life to reflect. At first, this might feel like letting go of control, and in many ways, it is. But what you're truly letting go of is the illusion that effort equals worth. You begin to understand that manifestation isn't about working harder, visualizing longer, or scripting more meticulously. It's about embodiment. Becoming the vibration of the life you desire, now before anything has changed. This is not a performance, it's a frequency, and you can't fake it. The universe knows the difference between the energy of pretending and the energy of being. And the more you return to your authentic state, the more you notice that what once felt like resistance fades. Things start arriving out of nowhere. Conversations shift, doors open. The effort you once poured into chasing now becomes energy you invest into alignment. You are no longer swimming upstream. You are the current. Let's bring this down to earth. Imagine someone who's longed for deep, fulfilling love. They've read the books, written the affirmations, done the vision boards. But relationships keep me back insecurity, abandonment, or control. Then one day, something shifts. Instead of asking, "Where's my partner?" they begin to ask, "How can I become love?" Not just when someone is watching, not just to attract, but as a state of being. They begin treating themselves with the same kindness they long to receive. They set boundaries with grace instead of guilt. They stop trying to be chosen and start choosing themselves. That shift is not about tactics. It's a vibrational turning point, and it changes everything. Sometimes the partner arrives, sometimes the desire dissolves. Either way, they are free. Because love is no longer a goal, it's a state they live in. This is the essence of effortless manifestation. It's not passive, it's intentional. It's not fantasy, it's frequency. You no longer ask the universe to give you something that contradicts your dominant vibration. You become the version of yourself who already has it. And life responds. Think of it like tuning a radio. You can't receive a jazz station while you're locked on heavy metal. No matter how much you want the jazz, the only way to hear it is to change your frequency. The good news? You're the dial. You always were. So pause, close your eyes, breathe into this question. Who would I be if I no longer feared being seen? If I no longer apologized for wanting more? And now, what would it feel like to live as that version of me? Today. This is the energy that collapses time. This is the identity shift that calls in miracles. Not because you're manipulating outcomes, but because you're no longer blocking what's already aligned with your essence. You're not here to chase reality. You're here to tune to it. Manifestation isn't about bending the world to your will. It's about becoming the signal that calls in what's already yours. When you understand this, ease becomes your teacher. Stillness becomes your compass. You stop trying to get it right and start allowing yourself to feel right. And from that feeling, everything flows. The new life you seek is not far away. It's not in the future. It's in the shift you choose right now, in this breath, in this choice to remember your power, to stop waiting for permission and to start living as if the dream has already arrived. Because when you do, it does. So here we are at the edge of a new knowing. Not just an article, but a mirror. Reflecting back the truth you've always sensed but maybe never fully claimed. You are the architect of your reality. Not by force, not by control, but by frequency. By the energy you embody, the beliefs you practice, and the inner state you choose, moment to moment. The quantum power of thought is not a trick. It is not a trend. It is the essence of creation itself moving through you, waiting to be remembered. You don't need to become someone else. You only need to stop being who you're not. Every breath you take is another chance to align. Every moment is a portal back to yourself. So what will you choose now? Will you keep chasing life, or begin living as if it has already said yes to you? If these words stirred something deep within, let that stirring be your signal, your reminder, your invitation to begin, not someday, but today. Leave a comment, share what resonated, and subscribe for more journeys like this one. Because this is just the beginning. The field is listening. And now, so are you.